Hi, welcome to the February 27th episode of the Benmore Brief. Today I have a returning guest. When was the last time that we talked? It must have been
it's a few months ago, right?
A few months ago, yeah. Maybe even a year ago. It was a while ago, I know that. I was still back up in Wisconsin at that time. At the house is just sitting there currently. So that's how we became, we started a relationship was over the real estate market in Wisconsin. But I have Jason Ford here, senior mortgage banker at Bell Bank, and we have a couple interesting topics to go over. But I guess first and foremost, can you just give a quick introduction as to what you do, what your current role is? I know you have a team now, kind of what your team's roles are, and kind of how that's looking for you.
For sure. Yeah. So, generally anybody looking to get a mortgage, I would be someone you would go through to do that process. And in terms of how we do that, right, a lot of my front end stuff is sales and marketing, right? Obviously getting people to know you exist and then want to work with you. So doing a lot of that stuff on the front end, and then obviously doing however many loans or however many people I talk to, you get very familiar with the entire process, all the loan guidelines, different products we can use, different structures, things like that. So yeah, in general, anything mortgage related that's residential, I do that. And then the general team structure is now that the amount of people we help a year has gone up, just having some more back end operations help behind the scenes, and they do a fantastic job just making sure we uphold the standards in terms of how quickly we're getting people through the process, how easy is the process, how efficient is the process. So they deal with a lot of that stuff on the back end. And kind of we're in the phase of building out kind of like standard operating procedures of how everything flows, who does what, to make the experience as smooth as possible.
Yeah, no, and we've talked, I think since we last talked, you were just running basically a solo book, but now you have, it sounds like two team members. And are they mainly helping out on the marketing side? Are they actually closing deals and being a closer? Or what are their roles?
Yeah, so two different setups. One of them actually does loans themselves, so they self-source some of their own deals. And then they also help me with basically setting up and structuring different things that come in. So like when you would do a pre-approval for a mortgage, right? I'll go in and set things up, but it would be similar to almost like a doctor visit, right? Where you have like a nurse come in first or something that just, gets the data, gives a general idea, and then I come in and go, okay, I think we should do X, Y, Z. So that's kind of their role at the moment, but they also do their own stuff, right? So they have their own clients as well. And then we just hired another, I guess you would say, I would call them a head of operations, which is obviously when you get a mortgage, there's a lot of stuff on the back end in terms of like ordering appraisals, sending the files to underwriting, what docs do we need? What docs do we not want to see? Those kind of things. So she handles all of that behind the scenes.
Right. So like the logistics management with, I don't know the banking terminology here, but kind of like your back office that's doing underwriting and appraisals and all that stuff.
Exactly.
Got it. Cool. So, and then I guess, how has that expanded your book of, like bringing on the new team? What have you seen? I assume you're able to take on and service more loans, and essentially how has that impacted your book of business over the, bringing on these team members?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a stress test at the beginning because I've been so hands-on, and I'm still very hands-on, right? Like when you reach out, it's not like a pass off or anything like that. It's just allowing me to basically have higher level conversations with people, right? About the things they actually care about. So that's just allowed me to talk to more people about their situations. And then obviously it helps that I did everything from the beginning myself. So I have a very good idea of what the process is going to look like, exactly what loan programs fit. Hey, maybe we think about this, maybe we do that. So it's just freed me up to do a lot more of that high level strategy conversation stuff and less of the stuff on the back end. But again, you have to find very competent people if you don't want the quality to decline. So that was actually the hardest part, is finding the right people to make sure that the quality stays the way it was. And then, it's just freed me up in terms of having those conversations.
Yeah, and as we know each other, I mean, I know very much so your work ethic, your motor. I assume you're running a very high octane team, so I can definitely see that talent is especially needed. Especially if you want to get the output that you have. But what have you learned managerially? I know you talked just a second ago about like you're currently going through and creating SOPs. Any new skills that you've picked up in terms of sort of having a team now?
Yeah, I think the hardest thing for me is I just go do it and then figure it out. So being a little bit more detailed and concise about what do I want to have happen on that side, that's been the biggest learning curve, because all my SOPs now were basically me go do it. Okay, this feels good, this doesn't feel good. And then I'm just iterating on the fly as fast as I can to make the process move smoothly. So that was the biggest thing. And then two, I think the biggest second order effect that I've seen that's actually really nice is the one benefit of doing everything yourself and knowing how to do those things. It's easier to attract people that you want to attract, because you can speak with a lot of passion about that stuff and they can feel that, hey, I've been in the trenches with you. I've done that stuff with you. I wouldn't ask you to do something that I wouldn't do or haven't done.
Yeah.
So I think that's the biggest thing of leaning into that and telling people like, I will jump in whenever. Any questions you have, nothing off limits. You can give feedback on anything you think would be better. I'm not going to get offended. We're here to make the process better. So I think those are some of the biggest things that were different for me, of where I was just doing it all myself and kind of figuring those out as I go.
Yeah, no, 100%. It was the same for me as well. Like, especially when you start from kind of the ground, especially in like a service like business, a lot of those SOPs, when you're just doing it, you kind of just have in your brain. So you kind of have to take the time to like plan those things out. One thing that I wanted to ask you is, and this is something that we've realized here at Benmore, is how similar this is to like a team. Like you just mentioned, like, these people are essentially on your team. Obviously you play college athletics. Have you seen that sort of analogy as well? And, how has sports, if at all, helped you now sort of grow essentially your team?
Yeah, I think, you just learn how to interact with people in a different way, and you learn how to solve problems. And like you said, it kind of goes to the communication thing, right? Like you're so used to on a team, like you hang out with those people all the time, you talk to those people all the time. If you have disagreements, I used to do that all the time, right? Like you're in the locker room and like someone has a disagreement, someone says something, you respond, and then it's done with.
Yeah, you hash it out. Yeah.
So I think that's very helpful too, of being like, no one's above anything. Like if you think there's something we're doing that could be done better, just say it, right? And then we'll talk about it. And if I don't agree, I will tell you. And a lot of the times I'll be like, yeah, I think that's a good idea. Let's try it. And I think that's very, very much with sports too, right? Of you're just kind of communicating and you're all working towards the same goal, but everyone has a little bit different way they want to do it. So it's good to kind of learn those things, and that's been the biggest takeaway for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I guess we can transition into our next topic here is let's talk about your tool usage, technology tool usage, AI tool usage. What's your current tech stack? How has technology helped your operations? And yeah, I guess we'll just kind of go from there.
Yeah, so we kind of have I guess you would say a POS system, right? Where people fill out the application, they do different things on that. That's getting very automated. That's through a third-party vendor. So they're even working on some of those like AI integrations to help people fill out applications, right? Make it easier on people, automatically connect bank statements, automatically connect payroll if your company uses like an ADP or something like that. So those are getting very advanced on like the POS side of things. And a lot of this stuff is done electronically that way. And then it flows into like a loan, like kind of the loan operating system. That's a little bit harder with the compliance. And we're basically waiting on Fannie, Freddie, right, or the government organizations to come out with what's allowable, what's not allowable on that side. So that has kind of been the bottleneck still, is there's so much compliance and regulation in terms of, obviously there's very sensitive consumer data in there. But the biggest things have really been like the CRM stuff, the point of sale stuff, even using Gemini, Claude, ChatGPT, any of these for structuring questions. And we were even talking about this, like a lot on refinances now, rates have dropped a little bit. So there's more people refinancing. And then it's like, can I have a prompt to do a correct analysis of like when is the break even point, right? Like the general rule would be X amount in closing costs, I save Y amount a month, X divided by Y equals break even. But it's a little bit more complicated sometimes because people are changing from a 30-year to a 20-year. They're doing different things. And I can do that by hand every time, but then I have to pull up amortization schedule from the previous loan and the new one. So having prompts for a lot of those situations has been a huge time saver too, where you get extremely accurate, in-depth information that I can present very quickly without a delay. And then a lot of the CRM stuff is coming, right? Getting those integrations of probably more on the sales and marketing side, right? Like how you interact with consumers, when do you reach out? A lot of the big boys like your Rocket Mortgages or stuff are unbelievable at this. Like they have algorithms.
Yeah.
You know, this person is 80% likely to sell their home in the next 3 months. Someone's coming. So it's a lot of tech stuff on the actual sales and marketing part. The operations part's a little bit more difficult, even though it could be automated quite a bit.
But that's like
you just have so much regulation.
Yeah. That's super interesting. I had a VP of transformation guy at Sun Theory on a couple of days ago, and basically he was saying within his organization, he's more on the analytics side, but he was doing exactly what you were doing. But he was using Claude Code, a little bit more technical, but essentially having like pre-written internal prompts or skills is what they were called at the Claude Code level, but they're just pre-written essentially SOPs to follow. He said it is an incredible time saver, but it's still like downstream from your expertise. Like you need to make the prompt. Like you can't just, you need to essentially have your pre-written sort of scripts because the industry. Gemini, Claude, they don't know the industry because they're not mortgage brokers and they weren't trained on your day-by-day sort of calls that your experience over years now at this point. So how do you see that evolving? Do you see compliance on, lessening and then better usage of tooling and then do you see the expansion of your AI tool use in sales and marketing as well?
Yeah, that's a great question. And like, even when we're doing those prompts too, you have to be good enough because you can't feed personal data into them, right? So you have to know, like, I'm going from this loan program to this loan program. Here's roughly what the rates would be, right? Like, you probably could automate it even more if it was plugged into your system and then like you knew the data was secure. It could probably pull the person's exact profile and then come up with solutions. It's just, we're not doing that right now. It's like you said, the prompting. And I'm actually curious what you think, but like what I've seen, at least on my side, and this is the hard part about mortgage. Again, it's a little bit like old school, behind the curve with some of the stuff just because of the regulations, which are important, by the way, to have those in play. But you're not, like you said, you still have to understand what you're doing and direct it in the correct way, or you're not going to get what you want out of it, right? So like if I give a general things, I'm not specific enough or I'm not guiding, I'm like, because I have the feel for what I'm trying to do, I'm like, that's not right.
Yes.
Right? Exactly. Where if I didn't, I'd be like, oh, let me just take and give this.
Right.
It's like, but that's not
It's
correct.
Downstream from your experience, yeah.
Exactly. And it's like, you're almost trying to recreate like the technical parts of your brain. That's how it almost feels to me sometimes of like, like what technical parts can I give it so then it can speed those up. So I'm curious what you've seen. I mean, that's what has been on my side is like, you still need people that know what they're doing because the prompting, you're going to get very different results depending on the person doing the prompting, I guess would be the easiest way to say it.
No, this is it's super, and thanks for asking for my opinion. The prevailing sentiment that we've made a concentrated effort to reach out to our larger orgs that we work with, mainly in the mid-market space, and the prevailing sentiment. And there was a MIT research group that looked into this in 2025, and they analyzed AI transformation and implementation projects across mid-size and enterprise organizations. 95% of which failed. 5% that succeeded were when they were implemented in the exact way that you're talking about. Essentially, when you take someone like in a position like yourself who has 2 years, 3 years of experience, they know basically, like, let's just fast forward 5 years. You might have 10 people working for you in your division, but it's still all downstream from you. At any point in your sort of team, you would have at the very least understanding of how that specific sort of role is supposed to work. And so where the AI implementation projects were most effective is essentially when they took someone who is like a essentially like a high operator and understood the nuances of their division, and then didn't replace anyone in their division, just essentially automated the tedious and manual tasks that they would typically have to do by hand. So it was all downstream from talent and understanding of like processes and systems, but it didn't do anything except for increased productivity, which didn't mesh well with mid-size and large orgs because they were looking for immediate bottom line impact. And it's very hard to derive a number immediately on sort of productivity boosts. You'd have to wait like a year to see essentially like jobs that or the sort of compression of a team, or jobs that roles that you no longer essentially needed to fill because you have a couple people who are outputting a lot of work. And so that's kind of been the prevailing sentiment, is like a high operator understands a process through and through, and then they understand the parts of the process in which AI can assist in, and then they essentially train and tool their staff to optimize and become more productive. So that's been the prevailing sentiment. I've had conversations with multiple people at midsize who are backing that, and it's actually a service offering that we're starting to roll out here. Is like, let's go into your org, essentially learn your processes for about a month, and then sort of basically make like a tailored version of AI, not to replace anyone, just to increase everyone's output. And so but it's been so prevalent to us that we're opening a line of business to target exactly doing that. So yeah.
And okay, so I have a follow-up question on this, because I always talk to my brother about this too, with like some like SaaS products, like if you get someone like what you guys do, right, that has a great understanding of the stuff and then also understands business in general, like general SaaS products are like, it's going to be hard because like if you have someone that comes into the organization, understands the business, and then understands the nuance of that business, isn't it just almost more efficient at this point, or at least getting there, where a lot of, especially maybe smaller, medium-sized companies, like you said, are building their own tech stack, right? Like you're almost customizing. If you get the right people in, that seems more efficient than even going out to the market for a general SaaS product in your specific industry. Yeah,
so again, just a continuing theme. I talked to Mitch about this on Tuesday. His company's about I think over 1,000 headcount, so it was very interesting to get his opinion. And basically the rationale was like, the SaaS companies that are closest to the heartbeat of the company, I'm sure you guys have some very central probably software that you use in your back office operations that it's just not going to go anywhere. And that's due to regulation. That's just due to workflows and stuff like that. But, in your book, right, a small team, maybe a custom CRM might work best. It just might work best, essentially, rather than, going with some out of the box CRM. Basically, the sentiment that he said and that I'm seeing as well is that you're sort of lower hanging SaaS products that solve one specific problem, you're starting to see, and especially if it's not like a risky problem that needs to be solved, where essentially it's just like a extension on top of something that could be done in Excel. Technically, like a CRM could technically probably be done in Excel or something like that. You are starting to see some dominoes fall, where at smaller teams, and especially for low cost, it just might make sense to make a custom tailored piece of software. But I don't know, and this was his thing, it's still kind of a harder hill to die on if that's getting done internally, because software needs to be maintained and built. So what we are seeing is, it's like, for our company, we can come in and make small products, but we still need to sell against risk. And it's just like, because, it's like, we can make basically a SaaS product for you, but then they're still going to be like, okay, so do we have to maintain this? Do we have to support it? Like what, who owns it and stuff like that? And so I would say in general, I think it's greenfield right now for companies like ours, because larger orgs, you still need to sell against risk. Like you can build them a very specific piece of software very quickly, but they don't want to maintain it. They don't want to think about it. They just want it to work. And that's, so that's the way that we're seeing things going on the low hanging fruits in SaaS. By and large, though, and I'll wrap this up really quickly, I don't even know if that's the future outlook. I think everything long term is going to be ran through AI, like a Claude prompt, right? So instead of you having a CRM, if the models get fast, like really fast, like instantaneously fast, you can just have like a master agent and you're just like, can you please quickly create a dashboard for me that shows my CRM? And then you can just prompt away and it will create the UI for you that you get. That's where I think things are going long term. So I don't even know if like coming in and creating micro SaaS or micro products is the long term play there.
Well, it's so interesting because I like think about this too. Like I almost feel about, like you said, like you're almost going into a Google search bar and you know what I mean? Like like the prompt, if the prompting's good enough, it's almost creating it on the fly. You know what I'm saying? Like we even talked about a little about like even like mortgage presentation tools, for example.
Yeah.
And I know you and I have talked about this, and like there's a lot of regulation and compliance, which is honestly the hardest part about it. With different things, but like what stops something if it's trained well enough on what is being done, where it can't take a finite set of consumer data points, right? And you're like, create this, like you're just prompting, like you would on
Gemini.
Like Lovable is hard or something even where it's like, right, you can't get all the way there.
All the way there,
with a lot of it. But like if you came in and were like, okay, like Jason, here's all the technical things you're doing. Could you get an agent that knows just mortgage presentations, right? And knows exactly what you're doing every time. And then because there is some nuance, you just come in with your prompt about the different things you want to see. And then it just knows to create that and send that out.
Yeah. So that's,
you know,
that's exactly what, again, we're talking to Tuesday with Mitch about. That's skills. So in Claude, have you used Claude Code? I'm sure you've heard of it at this point. I don't know if you've utilized it.
Yeah, I've used it some. I just haven't had anything like technical enough to even play around with it.
Yeah, that's the sort of double-edged sword about Claude Code is it physically looks very intimidating. Which I'm sure once you start typing into it, it's like, oh, this is just ChatGPT, right? But it physically looks quite intimidating, which I actually talked about yesterday on the show. I was like, I think if there's one SaaS left, it's just slapping a nice UI on top of Claude Code like that. Like that's it. But no, so in Claude Code, the nice thing about it is you can have skills. So I'll just talk about something that we do internally here at Benmore. So we do have a presentation skill at Benmore. So it's literally just a custom prompt and what a skill does is essentially like a custom workflow, a custom prompt, but it integrates natively with Claude Code where if it thinks that it should use the skill and it gets it good to like 95% accuracy, you don't have to like specifically tool call it or like copy and paste it in. It will just know that, oh, the user is trying to make a presentation. I'm going to go to the presentation skill and it will pull that in to the context and utilize it and make a presentation. So we use that all the time internally here at Benmore. We don't even make PowerPoint presentations anymore. We just make HTML and CSS, just code. We just make code presentations, but we have a little rendering engine, so it still shows in our client portal. But by and large, that's like our entire service offering is, you know, we're kicking off a couple pilots with a couple of our clients right now, but we're literally going into, and we're starting small. We're just working with one employee just to start. It's like, I'm just going to work with you. We're going to give you Claude Code. I want to understand your processes, and we're going to, I don't have a word, I just call it skillize everything, but essentially custom prompt everything and just make sure that you understand how to use Claude Code. And again, it's not meant to do anything except for stop, you know, someone taking 2 hours to make a presentation. That's it. Like it's, you know, and they still review the presentation, they still make sure it looks good, but that's it. And so again, like we're trying to figure out a methodology to measure the productivity gains and convert that into a bottom line for, you know, case study purposes and stuff like that. But to answer your question, like, yeah, absolutely. Eventually, where I see things going in the service that we're trying to offer is just like, let's just go into your organization and like, you know, with mid-sized companies, you got to start small. You got to start with one, and then maybe the contract can expand and you can wedge your way in. But ideally, you know, I know that we can go into mid-sized organizations and with a lot of their sort of, I don't want to say back office work, but like the analysts, the accountants, the, you know, I'm sure like your operations person or something like that, or your marketing and whatnot. It's just like, let's understand exactly what you're doing. Let's take the stuff that is tedious and just automate it and then utilize this sort of engine as your assistant throughout the day. It's not doing anything but making your job easier. So I hope that answers your question. As you can tell, I'm passionate about it, but yeah.
No, It's got to be like the biggest. I mean, like, I don't even, like I always said, like, if you're starting a company right now, like, doing what you guys are, like, that's the thing that makes the most sense by far. And if you're running a business and especially get people that just aren't as familiar, right? Like, how many businesses have people that, like, can use a cell phone, but not a ton, that really, really need help?
Yeah.
And this would be a big, big needle mover for them. But it's like, they're like, well, I don't know what to do. And it's like,
Exactly.
okay, we'll come in and do it for you. Like, that's the point. We'll come take a look at everything you're doing, and then we'll be able to tell you what we can do with your current procedures, operations, different things you're doing. And it solves a massive problem for a ton of businesses, right? Like, think of the TAM of like businesses that need help implementing AI.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
It's pretty much every single one.
Yeah, exactly. The right way. The right way. Yeah. And so we're seeing like lots of headwinds and needs for this in extremely manual process businesses. So logistics is huge. So we're making a concentrated effort there because they're working off spreadsheets. And it's like, continue to work off your spreadsheets. Let's just teach you how to use Claude Code so you don't have to fill in every single cell and stuff like that. So, no, absolutely. And I would say the other thing is just like, we're starting to see a shift now with mid-sized companies. They don't want to be paying these extended support contracts either. They don't want to be paying $100 a month for a SaaS and then have to pay another $100 a month if they expand their team per user. Like, they just want someone to come in, provide them value over the course of a couple months, train their staff, support their staff, and then dip. Like, that's kind of the way that business is going. It's going way more value driven, which is, I think, great. I think the market needs it. And I think it's a long time coming, honestly, because, a lot of these SaaS companies, they made a lot of money. Rightfully, I mean, whatever, it's just profit, right? But rightfully so, because they're essentially renting out software and renting out de-risk, like renting out risk aversion, which is fine. But that's not the state of software right now. It's just, like, y'all can do this internally. Let's just teach you really quickly.
100%. Yeah, it's just like it's even a faster learning curve, and it's good for the employees anyways that you're working with to start to get a feel for what's going to be coming, right?
Yeah.
Like, get a feel for how these tools are used, how you're doing different things. So no, that makes complete sense to me.
Well, let's transition into this last topic here. What do you guys got any initiatives, any targets? What do you see sort of happening in 2026 with your team? Are you expanding, servicing more loans? What are your guys' goals?
Yeah, we're trying to do a lot more. And I do some variation of B2B and D2C, different things that way.
What is B2B in mortgage?
Yeah, just to realtors, I guess you would say. So whenever you go to buy a home, a lot of realtors will have a recommended lender, whoever they use on that side. So that would be and it's a weird industry because it's not the same as many, you know what I mean? Like, when you say B2B, you're thinking like company to company, and it's like individual to individual, but it's like
technically B2B. Technically B2B.
That way. So, which is a completely different animal. Like, it is a completely, like, going to realtors is a lot different than dealing with consumers when you catch them at the top of the funnel.
Really?
Yeah, it's just a lot different in terms of how you even like work those, and how the flows look and different things like that. So yeah, just continuing to do that. And then like any business, like probably the same thing with you guys when you expand is, we want to expand, but I want to expand without sacrificing quality. And to do that takes a little bit of skill. Right? Yeah. It takes a little bit of skill. It takes a little bit of finding the right people. It's getting, like you said, more detailed with your operating procedures and what is being done and what is expected and how do we do this. So that's kind of the biggest thing, is learning on those things and then continuing to grow the amount of people we work with.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. I assume, like, we mentioned earlier, you've learned a lot in terms of managing people. Are there any known unknowns that you're interested in exploring as you expand your team? Stuff that you are anticipating is going to be, that you're going to have to solve down the line?
I think the hardest part, and again, maybe you guys have felt this, like when you like, you guys are traditional like founders of your company. I guess I didn't found mortgage, right? It's not like a traditional thing in that sense. But when you do it from the ground up, right? And like, everybody I've worked with has been personal relationships, and doing it from the beginning, the hardest part, honestly, is letting go of certain things.
Yeah.
Letting go of certain controls that I've been used to controlling. And then the quality control is always in my hands. And then, if something does happen, I can fix it. I can deal with it. I can do it because I'm involved. I think that's kind of the biggest learning curve, is doing that and finding out which things I can let go that are better for the business for me to let go. And also learning to trust people, that if you do get the right people, they may be able to do as good a job as you do. Right? Like if you can give them the tools or better. Exactly. If you're spread thin, they may even do it better. And it goes to the same thing you're talking about with, like, you know, with tools, right? Like AI is a tool for the people you're giving it to. It's like, well, can I give them the right tools, the right things, so that they can do as good a job as me, or even better possibly. So that's kind of the biggest thing, is just navigating that and finding the right balance.
No, I know exactly where you're coming from. Personally, in full transparency, I've always been lazy, so that kind of came naturally a little bit more to me. But you know, talking to other founders, that's like that's obviously like a key thing, and it's just kind of like I hedged on so much on the other side, where I delegated way too much trust, especially early on, and it kind of came back to bite me. But then again, like now I find the middle ground, where it's like, yeah, there are definitely situations where I need to step in, and I have no problem stepping in. But yeah, other founders who I've talked to, it's kind of, I don't want to say necessary evil, but it's a necessary component of growing a team, is like, yeah, functionally, if you want to hit the metrics that you want to hit, you will foundationally always be limited by your time. Like, you know, you just kind of have to, you know.
And it's like the same thing with you guys. Like when you stand behind your product, I mean, it sounds kind of like a marketing sales thing, but truly, like if you do stand behind your product, helping the most amount of people should be the goal, right? Or interacting. You don't even say helping. Solving the most people's problems, right? Solving how many people's problems can I solve sufficiently where they still want to leave a review and still have a positive experience and still do those kind of things? You will hit a limitation.
Yeah.
You personally cannot help everyone. And if you think you're better than the competition, then the best thing to do is set up the structure correctly, so you can go solve more people's problems than your competitor even. Yeah. Right? I mean, like they got, you know?
Yeah, that's the function of business, right? Like, what are the most successful businesses? They are solving the most amount of problems in the most efficient way as possible at scale. That's it. That's like what a business is, right? So if you can find a way to do that and create a team, a structure, processes, technology, whatever, to solve as many problems as possible in a quality fashion, and that's how you make a ton of money, like functionally.
Exactly.
Like that's it. It's not more difficult than that. I mean, the implementation of it is the hardest thing in the world, but
the execution.
Yeah, exactly.
The execution's the hard part. The idea is like, the guy that invented Starbucks isn't still, brewing coffee.
No, exactly.
Like it's like impossible. That's not
gonna happen. And I get meta with that as well, because every once in a while I'll just take like a step back and look around like a room, and I'll be like, wait a sec, like everything in my room right now was built by a team, like, served to me. And like this really hit me. I forget, this was like 4 or 5 years ago. I don't know, I was just in some like pitch industry or whatever. I was just hearing pitches for whatever. I forgot why. I think it was like some founders demo that I was just involved or something. And this individual, he came up with this idea for technology to serve nail, like literal, like hard, like stuff that you would nail into wood, the manufacturing industry. And he was like, yeah, this is a $50 billion market, the nail manufacturing industry. And I was like you would never think of that. But the reality is, it's like that nail is solving someone's problem at scale, and there's someone out there in the world that's making a ridiculous amount of money, and is probably they're probably not passionate about manufacturing nails, but they're probably passionate about building the team that can manufacture nails at scale. So, every once in a while I get meta about it. I'm like, wow, that's super interesting to think about.
Yeah. Well, it is, like you said, it's finding the balance of doing that the correct way. And then your feedback is you're doing it correctly when customers have a positive experience. Customers come back again. Customers refer new customers. Those kind of things. And like you said, it's really like, how many problems can my specific business solve? That's what we're going for. We want to solve the most amount of problems we humanly can.
Yeah, exactly. That's awesome. So do you see in the coming years, do you see the team expanding? Do you see more loans? I know that that's the goal, but how do you see that actually play out in an ideal fashion over the coming year?
Again, we're going to see how far we can go with some of this new technology stuff with who we have, and try and get as many, I guess you would say, A players.
Yeah, we call them operators. Operators.
Yeah. Whatever field they're in, are they in the top percentiles of what they do? Can we get as many people of those that we can get, and then can we pair them with the right tools, right? Which happens to be tech right now.
Yeah.
How can we get those people the right tools so they can be super, super effective? So that's kind of the main goal, is get the base structure in. And then we're doing the same thing you're mentioning that I think every company should be doing, which is, how can we take technology? How can we take the stuff you just told me about? And how can we improve the people we have?
Yep.
That makes the most amount of sense to me, the current way it's going. And I think that's just going to be the way it continues to progress, is companies that are able to implement those things the best will win.
Yeah, exactly. It's definitely a turning tide in the workforce. And it's it's one of those things that I think comes around once every 20 years, where it's like, pretty much every business is, can be affected by this, positively or negatively. And it's just interesting. It's the first one that I've lived through as an adult. I've heard, like, from my parents, like, the internet boom was very similar sort of headwinds. And of course, you're going to see bubbles pop up, and you're going to see bubbles pop and all this other stuff. But I don't know. It's an exciting. Would you agree? It's definitely an exciting time, right?
And it's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Right. Like, that's the thing, I think, for people, and maybe it's like, you'd probably talk to, if you're going to generalize, people that have been around longer. And I even see it in mine. They're like, well, business was done this way. And it's like, correct. You were really good. You did a phenomenal job, but the game has changed a little bit, and you need to adapt, right? And this stuff isn't going anywhere, like you said.
Yeah,
it's going to progress. There's going to be certain things where, is it overstated? In this, at this one time of this thing it can do. Yeah, of course, that happens with everything. Like, you don't know what it's going to turn into, but the general direction is what you just stated, and I completely agree. It's not going away. It's adapt or die when it comes to all this tech stuff.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, that's very exciting. I think we've kind of got through our topic list here. Any final thoughts? Any last thoughts, or sort of projections over the next year?
No, I'm just gonna keep bothering you like I do with all the stuff, all the questions I ask you anyway. So yeah, it's exciting times.
Here to help, man. And then hopefully we find you in Chicago sometime soon as well.
I know. We got to get down there when the weather's when it warms up a little bit. I'll see you there.
Yeah, the summertime is definitely. And then who knows? Maybe I'll take a trip back up to Madison, and you'll happen to be there. So let me know if you're back up there.
Yeah, we'll be at the college club. We'll see you there.
Awesome, man. Well, great. Thanks for coming on, and I'm sure we'll talk again soon in the coming months, and it'll be very great to check in to see how. Last thing I'll say is these tools are progressing on I don't know if you're up to date in the tech sphere on Twitter. If not, I'd recommend just following like a couple of the AI labs. They are dropping stuff literally every day. It is ridiculous. Something new comes out on a daily basis. So I'm looking forward to seeing how things will change in a couple months and how that's affecting your team and your industry as a whole.
100%.
All right, awesome, man. Well, thanks for coming on. I'll see you around.
We'll talk to you later, man.